Hi everybody. Today I want to share my learnings from practicing OKRs over the last few years, what I have discovered along the way, and how you can apply OKRs in your own teams. Many of you might have read the history of OKRs, such as how it was developed and adopted at Intel by Andrew Grove, and how John Doerr, an employee of Intel, was taught and applied OKRs at Intel, took that concept to Google, implemented and scaled it, and how it has been tried and tested as a methodology that is still used at Google today. Most of this history can be read in the book Measure What Matters by, you guessed it, John Doerr, and in this day and age it is recommended as a 101 book for leadership and product managers to read. It will definitely help to give that book a read before or after watching this video so you grasp the concept even better. Reading theory and practicing theory, however, are two very different things, so I wanted to take the core learnings that I have discovered over the years from practicing OKRs and try to put it into a simple visualization that can act as a spark for critical thinking on the subject of OKRs, as well as a way to help you visualize how you can apply OKRs within your own teams. So before we dive in to how to apply OKRs, let's first talk a little bit about what OKRs actually are. Again, I recommend reading into OKRs alongside this video to make sure you also understand deeply how it works. But let me try to explain it in 30 seconds. The first letter in OKRs is O. This stands for objective. That asks the question, where do you want to go? One example of this for a delivery service might be build the fastest delivery service in the world. Very aspirational. The next part of OKRs is the KR, which is the key result. A key result is a way to measure your progress towards your set objective. Some practitioners say at this point your key result should be SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based. I will talk about the structure of a key result in a minute, but first let's talk about where OKRs as a whole fit into an organizational structure, as this is very important to note before you try to define how to write an OKR. The most important learning that I have from OKRs is that although they're designed to help organizations focus, the OKRs should actually come from the team, but be guided from the top with top-level company OKRs. How closely your individual team OKRs match your company-level OKRs depends on the size of your organization. But even OKRs at the lowest level of the triangle should accumulate one-to-one, back up to the guiding OKRs at the top of the org. Otherwise, you get into unneeded internal conflicts, political battles, which can be solved through simple one-to-one alignment sessions when setting the OKRs. So point 1 and 2 is let OKRs come from the team, but make sure everyone is focused on the same thing by guiding from the top with company-wide OKRs. Point 3 is about team happiness and motivation. If you set OKRs together, but nobody really agrees to them, then nobody is really motivated to hit them. It is important that OKRs are agreed sideways and downwards on company OKRs. Even if this session takes half a day from every team, the payoff will be much greater in the end because productivity, employee retention, and ultimately focus on value to the company goes up. Now that we have an understanding as to why key results exist and where they can fit into an organization, let's talk about how to structure a key result, why that is important for measuring success, and focus and bringing value. There are 4 main rules of thumb that I've come across when constructing a key result. They are having a metric, having a value that you are moving from, and having a value that you're moving to, and making the value you are moving to difficult to obtain. So your 100% then becomes 70%. So let's apply these principles to a possible real-world example. I gave the example objective of creating the fastest delivery service in the world for the sake of this example. Let's just pretend the fastest delivery service in the world is currently 30 minutes door to door. So let's apply the rules. The first rule is needing to have a metric, something you can tangibly measure. I highlighted our metric in yellow so that you can get a good picture. The second rule is moving from a baseline value. I highlighted the baseline value we are moving from in green. This value should be a realistic representation of where your current company or team performance sits. The third rule is having a value to move to. I highlighted this one in pink and then I crossed it out. And that is because of rule number 4. Which is to make sure that the value you are moving to is difficult to obtain. Adjust it so that you know you are really moonshotting hard if you get that 100%. So you think you've got it down and you have some great OKRs? Well, remember that when applying OKRs, the reason why you are doing it is to create strong squad, team, or company focus. So how do you actually do that? First, you need to make sure that you're agreeing on the OKRs altogether. It is important to make sure that you all understand the OKRs and what it really means. This also means making sure it's motivational for everyone, and to remember the rule of thumb when setting them. Finally, you need to make sure you actually have the tools in place to measure those results. One thing I have seen time and time again is an OKR gets set, which nobody actually knows how to measure. Sometimes what you think your meta OKRs are might not actually be measurable, and if required, can even become an OKR to make it measurable. So agree on OKRs together, choose OKRs you all understand, make sure they motivate you all, remember the rules of thumb when creating them, and make sure you are actually able to measure the key results. By following these guidelines, I've found that it creates a very strong level of focus, and I've seen that it really helps with employee happiness too, which is a strong factor to productivity. But wait, this isn't good enough yet. You think your team have focus, but do they have razor sharp focus? You're halfway through the quarter and you suddenly realize that your team have no idea how their work is influencing OKRs. It happens all the time. The team gets stuck into the execution of their next biggest valuable epic, and they start measuring the performance of the solution, not the performance of the OKR. The first thing to remember is that there's nothing wrong with this, and it's okay to talk about how you measure both. But you need to make sure that the performance of your solution level, I call them leading indicators, help cause key result level results. I'm calling them lagging indicators here. If you get this right, you can see the direct effect of the solutions you have built on the business, measuring your output in a way that results in valuable outcome. So then, how do we make sure that our leading indicators are relevant for our lagging indicators? The last rule of thumb here sounds simple, but actually it gets overlooked way too often. This is to make sure that you agree on how to measure your solution's performance beforehand. We know that we want to improve our OKRs, and we have some strong signals which tell us that we can do it with a certain type of solution. Great. So what are the solution level measurement criteria which matter? And how do they move the needle on your OKRs? On the ground, following this last step usually comes down to how well you plan your tracking within your team. Assuming we all understand what we're trying to measure. So if you understand what you're trying to measure, you can make sure that your leading indicators are relevant for your lagging indicators. So that concludes my crash course to applied OKRs, and from my experience, what has worked well and the biggest hurdles I've had along the way. I hope my experience helps you and your organization to make good decisions in how you set your OKRs, and also helps to start a dialogue of critical thinking around how you focus on the biggest problems in your org. Please take the opportunity to philosophize over the subject itself in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and also let me know if you want to see more about specific details of this subject, or if you want to see more videos from me on other subjects. Thanks.